Today, we're going to dive into a framework that really flips the script on how we think about raising exceptional kids. We're going to explore why building a genius personality is the absolute essential first step, long before we ever start worrying about building a genius mind.
So let's just kick things off with a big question, one that might make you rethink a few things. What if, all this time, we've been chasing the wrong kind of genius?
You know, when you actually dig into the research, the answer is kind of shocking. It's so clear. Things like early intellectual performance, knowing your ABCs before everyone else, that stuff is actually a really weak predictor of long-term success. So what's a much stronger predictor? It's character traits. Things like resilience, self-regulation, and that inner fire, that motivation. Those are the real signs of future achievement and innovation. And that right there, that's the whole point of this explainer. The goal shouldn't be to cram a genius mind full of facts first. It's to build the internal architecture, the very foundation of a genius personality, because that's what everything else stands on. Okay, so how in the world do we actually do that? Well, let's get into the first part of this framework and see how it works. We're talking about the mindset pillars, the stuff that creates that strong internal foundation. First up, we've got healthy self-confidence. And look, we have to be super clear about what this means. This is not about arrogance or being cocky. This is a deep confidence that's rooted in competence, in self-efficacy, that quiet, solid belief that you can figure things out. It doesn't come from empty praise or from constantly being compared to other people.
So here's where the rubber meets the road. Our go-to is often, "You're so smart," right? But think about what that does. It praises something that feels fixed, an innate ability. A way more powerful approach is to praise the process. "Wow, you worked so hard on that." That reinforces something the child can actually control and, more importantly, repeat their own effort.
Because at the end of the day, here's the fundamental truth. Confidence isn't something you can just give someone. It has to be built. It grows from one thing: repeated experiences of earned success, one small effort-filled win at a time.
Okay, let's move on to our second pillar. And this one is a total game changer. It's all about reframing something we're usually taught to fear: healthy failure. The big idea here is that failure isn't the opposite of success, not at all. It's the very mechanism, the tool that you use to build success.
So how do you actually teach that? The key is all in how we respond. We gotta stop punishing failures that came from real effort. Instead, we can turn it into a coaching moment. Just ask two simple questions. What did you learn from that? And, okay, so what will you try differently next time? See how that turns a mistake into a lesson? And think about the result of that. It's pretty profound. A child who learns to fail well, who isn't terrified of getting it wrong, learns to think deeply. They're willing to take risks, to push the envelope, because a setback isn't a disaster. It's just data for the next try. And that idea of not fearing failure, well, it leads us right into our third mindset pillar: fostering a genuine love of challenge. This is that sweet spot, that magic intersection where curiosity meets persistence. It's about teaching kids to actually seek out difficulty instead of running from it. So how do we pull this off? It's about changing the kinds of problems we throw their way. Instead of only focusing on stuff that has one single correct answer, we can spark real curiosity and experimentation just by asking open-ended questions like, what happens if you try it this way? And that's the connection right there. Children who learn to love a good challenge don't just get better at memorizing things. They develop real, genuine, creative intelligence. They become problem solvers, innovators. All right, so we've talked about the internal stuff, the mindset. Now let's pivot and look at how this all translates into real-world action. Let's get into the action pillars, the things that create the external structure for all this growth to happen. And that brings us to our fourth pillar: independence and responsibility. This is a big one. It's all about nurturing a child's sense of agency, helping them see themselves as a capable person who does things, not just a passive kid waiting around for instructions. And this really gets at the delicate balance we have to strike. It means we have to resist that powerful urge to overprotect, to jump in and fix everything. Instead, we assign them responsibilities that are right for their age, and this is the really tough part, we have to let them experience the natural consequences of their own choices. That's how real competence is built. I mean, what a great way to put it, right? Independence is the soil in which genius grows. You just can't have original, innovative thinking if you don't have a foundation of autonomy. It's that simple. Okay, our fifth and final pillar, and this word can be loaded, so we have to be super clear on the definition. The pillar is discipline. But listen, this is not about punishment or being harsh. True discipline is just structure that's provided with empathy, and its only goal is to build a child's inner sense of control. And this next part draws, I think, the most critical distinction of all. On one side, you have discipline. That's structure with empathy, and it builds inner control. On the other side, you have harshness. That's just control through fear, and it does the exact opposite. All the research shows that fear is a powerful creativity killer. It shuts down higher order thinking. It really just boils down to this. Discipline builds inner control. Harshness completely destroys it. One empowers a child from the inside out, the other tries to control them from the outside in. Okay, so we've got our 5 pillars. The big question now is, how do they all connect? How do they build on each other to create something truly excellent? Let's wrap this up by tracing the path from character all the way to genius. And here's how the whole model comes together. You can see it builds step by step. It all starts with emotional safety. That creates the willingness to explore. That exploration then gets fueled by self-discipline, which allows for sustained effort. Of course, sustained effort is going to lead to some setbacks, which is where failure tolerance comes in. And that tolerance for failure is what breeds innovation. You combine that innovation with independence, and that's where you get original thought. And when all of that is held together by a real, grounded confidence, you have the recipe for leadership and excellence. So, if there's one single idea you walk away with today, let it be this. The genius mind isn't just born, it's built. And it's built on a disciplined, resilient, and autonomous character. The personality has to come first. And that leaves us with a final question. Not for me, but for you. Looking back at all these pillars, what's one small daily practice you can start today to help build that foundation?